I don't really need to call up, like,
Yeah.
and then, but then I'm hearing all the talks about the Sangha and stuff recently, and I am so enthusiastic about this stuff. So it's like,
Oh,
oh, well, you know what? I want to kind of get in there and just have, some folks to like talk about it because
yeah.
it's just such a joy, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, no, but it would be awesome, like again, because just you know, I like his you know, contribution, is just, I mean, it's been a great gift, and of course, what I love too is, like again, he's very much, he is grateful himself, to like all the people who have taught him, and like Bhikkhu Buddhadasa and stuff, and it's just like going all the way back, and it's just like
Yes.
wow, yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that gratitude is kind of infectious, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, so he would love to hear from you. Of course, if you never get around to it, well, he might see this. He uploads all of these
Yeah.
to the channel as well. I'm not sure how much of them he watches, but he's aware of the benefit that everyone's getting, and it's tremendous fuel on his fire.
Yeah.
So sharing, it's really great to hear about it working so well for you. What's worked for you?
What's worked for me? Well, I think there's a lot of things to this practice that have like really
Oh,
really worked in terms
sorry.
of like, oh,
I meant something altogether mundane. What's your job?
work.
Yeah.
I work at a sub shop, so right now,
Oh,
yeah,
great.
yeah,
Everyone
and
needs to eat.
yep, and then I do like cash as well and stuff. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah,
Great. Now, I asked because you mentioned specifically that you've been enjoying work.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so it's always interesting to hear, what are people doing with all of that time?
Mhm.
What are people finding they can make enjoyable? And yes, indeed, we can make making subs enjoyable.
Mhm.
It's great to
Yeah,
hear.
yeah, it's like slicing the cheese that can still be,
Yeah.
like it's enjoyable, right? And the thing
Yeah.
is it's always you can come back to the breath, right? Too. Like again, that's so helpful. And if I like catch myself like kind of, going into hindrance or whatever, it's like, aha, I see you, and then coming back to the breath, right? And that's talking though about like practice-wise, what's worked is this idea of like whenever you remember, right,
Yeah.
instead of, oh, you should do this, you should do that. It's more like, okay, no, this is the kind of the way the mind works. You're gonna forget, but then having that reaction when you remember is like so wonderful because it's like, oh, isn't it such a relief that I remembered, not, oh man, I'm such a bad meditator because I forgot or something, right? Like it's that reframing with like sort of the wholesome thought. Like it's just like, ah, yeah, that's it, right?
That's that fundamental flip that so often we don't get to hear about, right? That's the special sauce.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm thrilled to hear you're rocketing along. This is just beautiful. Yeah, amazing stuff. Alex, you got a hand up.
Yeah. So as I was saying earlier to you, Dan, and just to inform everybody, so I had like a 6-day streak of lots of great success and joy and satisfaction. It was it was
I really
awesome.
liked it. It was really motivating to see your messages in the chat.
Yeah, it
Really
really
helped me keep
was
motivated.
awesome. That's good. Thanks, Robert. And then I would even like wake up into that state, which was a surprise. That wasn't even an expectation. I was like, what the hell is happening to me? And I still would like kind of go throughout the day and, check in with the breath. And, if I would be making friends, making friends with all the unwholesome. So whatever unwholesome was there, like, oh, okay, I can make friends with this, and then take a breath and smile and then repeat, over and over again. And I was happy to do it. And it didn't feel as much like the previous time where I had like a streak of success where it was more like work. It was more heavy handed. This was more like easy and getting into like a state of effortlessness.
Amazing.
However, and it is amazing. It is amazing. And I don't want any of you to think, especially you, Dan, to think that I was not acknowledging my success or not congratulating myself. I was like, I'm pretty sure the only way I could have experienced what I did is if I was congratulating myself and having the success that I did.
Mhm.
The problem is that yesterday I didn't wake up into that state, which, hey, I was like, there was a little bit of like a glimmer of like, oh, okay, hey, I'll make friends with that. Worry, doubt, okay, all right, take a breath, enjoy this. I did 10 minutes of conscious, mindful breathing and enjoying the breath and acknowledging that as a success. And then, I went about a couple hours doing the same thing. I didn't change anything. I was doing the same thing that I've been doing for the past 6 days. And it was different. It was as if there was a heavier wall in front of me. It was as if everything that was there within the past 6 days just got lost. It was just like disappeared. Yes.
Yeah.
And
what you're talking about right now from this morning is lost too.
Well, not exactly. Not exactly. Because every time I go back to this practice that I was doing, it's not giving me the relief and the success that it was before. And I know that's dukkha because it's, oh, hey, you want something different than what it is now. Okay, dukkha, great. Another friend to make friends with. Yeah, I know. I know the whole process. I've been doing that for the past 6 days, on and on and on and on and on. And I gotta say, I am royally frustrated and upset. I gotta say, this is absolutely maddening. This is maddening. Why do we do practices to feel okay? Why do we do practices to feel relief? It's absurd. It's absurd. Why can't we just be okay? I'm so sick of this stupid fucking merry-go-round of
brother.
Oh my God! I gotta practice myself to relief. I hate it. I'm so sick of it.
Brother.
And then I gotta reach into Dhammarato so that I can get through the day.
Brother, you've got it backwards. We don't start doing practices to feel okay. We start being conditioned to feel bad.
Yeah.
If we were satisfied, there'd be no need for the practice.
Exactly. And why can't it just be that simple?
Well, it can in the end. But because you've been trained to be dissatisfied for decades, that you just had a 6-day experience of freedom and success and joy is no joke worthy of that street parade that I mentioned earlier. And as soon as you come join the parade, there goes the dukkha. Robert, you had it up.
Oh yeah, no, I just wanted to say that I completely relate to Alex's experience. I have it the same way, where I would wake up on the wrong side of the bed every single day, and so every single morning I'd wake up in this really like gloomy mood, and I'd have to like work so hard just to like feel good, just to like start my day on like the right foot. And then the last like 6 days I had the same experience of where like suddenly I just started waking up on the right side of the bed, and I was waking up into like the sort of like glad and like just like, you know, like happy, like a good mood, right? Basically a good mood. Like, I don't know why I'm using like weird language for it. Like, yeah, just like waking up on the right side of the bed and stuff. And like for the first time in like since I was like a little kid. Wow. And it was just like really cool.
Yeah.
And then like there'd be like moments throughout the day where I feel so happy that like I feel like this is it. I found like the secret to just like handling life's problems. And then like there would be other moments of the day where I'd forget how to do it, and I'd be so gloomy, and I'd be like, how did I forget that? Like, how could I have found like, because it like that, and then I'd somehow like I talk to someone in the chat, they give me some advice, or I just do it like myself with my own self-talk, and it would just all of a sudden hit me like a ton of bricks, and I'd be like, wow, this is it, I found it again. How did I forget it? And I just get like so frustrated. But yeah, I just wanted to say I relate, so you're not alone.
That's always nice to hear. The important point here is the difference between process orientation and results orientation. And Alex, if you feel like I'm sick of hearing this, well, you're just going to have to hear it one more time, brother. As long as we're measuring phenomena to tell us how we're doing, you see how the feelings are not a measure of how well you're practicing. The practice is the measure of how well you're practicing. And we continue to practice because we've seen that if we continue to practice, good stuff happens, but we don't demand anything of phenomena.
So if the feelings isn't a measure of how well we're practicing, then why then when we feel satisfaction and relief and freedom, we congratulate that and say, oh, that's a success?
Because it's wonderful. It's wonderful to have a success. But you see, the flip is, certainly in the beginning, we don't get to control the mind in that immediate way. We don't get to wake up on the wrong side of the bed and say, no, I don't feel like feeling like that, so I'm going to feel great. End of story. I'm enlightened now. It doesn't go that way. We're developing skills. Maybe we get to feel a little bit better. So we start the street parade. Then we join the parade. We feel even better again. But you see, the feeling better comes as the result of a process.
Yeah.
And
I'm so sick of it.
That works.
So
Well,
sick
then
of it.
if you're sick of it, then you're practicing incorrectly. We need to, hey, Mohammed, we need to practice in a way that's at least bearable, at the very, very least. Preferably enjoyable. Can you find a way to enjoy the process and allow for it to be a rainy day? So we're not making demands. And brother, you've been here before, and you've seen what happens when you recommit and recommit and recommit to the practice in each moment. You dragged yourself out of this ditch before, and it was a much deeper ditch, if I recall rightly, when we were on this call 2 weeks ago. And you came out of it. You can handle this. Now, as long as you're in, why do we have to practice? Why can't we just be born satisfied? It's just dukkha. It's just dukkha. This is the way it is right now. What am I going to do about it? What are my options? I can wallow or I can practice. I can rage against the practice or I can practice. It's like your house is flooded. You got to bail it out. You can bail it out. Or you can bail it out and complain about bailing it out.
Thank you. I get it.
Brother. I know you get it, and I know that's why you get so frustrated when I say the same thing to you over and over again.
You have no idea.
That's just our dance right now.
Alex, have you seen those Zen parables where it's like, or even in like the sutras where it's like the master says like one thing, or like there's one where he like cuts the guy's finger off and then he just goes like this, and in that moment like the guy like awakens forever and it's like so. I feel like that was your moment.
No, I haven't seen that.
Oh, they're everywhere, man. I feel like that's what's gonna happen to like one of us in the Sangha at some point. Like Dhammarato or like Kishan's gonna say like one of the, because this happens to me so much. Like I'll just like recall one of these pointers someone said, and I'll suddenly wake up and it's just like, what? It's like I get it now.
Yeah,
I get it now. And I just want to say, man, keep hope, because one day, one of these days, like one of those I get it nows is going to be the last I get it now. You're going to be an arhat. We're all going to make it. You got this, dude. I believe in you. I think you got the fire inside. That's why you suffer so much, is because you're so desirous, and that just means you're.
Thanks, Robert.
And if there's one thing to desire, it's freedom.
Amen.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, it is such a trap, because I was looking up the 5 aggregates, and it was saying something about how you need to see the beginning and end of your will in order, I think my interpretation of it is, in order to not be dominated or run by it anymore, and then you can have true will, but will as an aggregate just gets in your way, and it gets in your way from real freedom. And I'm like, I was starting, actually, this is interesting. I wonder if this is something that may have caused me to go out of that state. The morning before, I was looking up dependent arising. I actually reading a little bit about this on Dhamma Talks all week. It was this guy basically summarizing or analyzing Bhikkhu Buddhadasa's writings on dependent arising. What he said is like, so it starts with ignorance, and then ignorance goes to volition, and they all rest upon and are supported by each other, which I feel like I was like seeing that clear as day, and that like after feeling goes to clinging, and what we're doing, I think, with Anapanasati is seeing, oh, there's that unwholesome feeling. Okay, so when I see that feeling, I can change the mind before it goes to clinging. So that if when it goes to clinging, it goes to craving. So you're like basically trying to like get a hold of this fucking dragon before it like carries you through the village, you know? And I think what happened is I was starting to see that, and then and my feelings, they started becoming more like condensed. So instead of like, I don't want this, it was more like, oh, clinging. Oh, I see you clinging. I can make friends with this. So it became more simplified.
I think before feeling is contact, though. I don't think
before feeling is contact. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think what I'm hearing from what you're saying is like a lot of focus on this feeling, and like, yeah, it might be helpful to look straight at like the 6 sense bases, you know, like, and that's what contact gets at, is like that there's some external stimulus that happens first before the feeling arises, before we make a perception about that feeling, like the positive, and it's not an emotion either. The feeling Vedana is positive, negative, or neutral. It's not the same feeling that you're thinking of like an emotional feeling. You know, that's later down the line. That's like mental formation, samskara, you know. So it can be confusing in Buddhism because they use the word feeling, but they don't mean emotion, just so you're aware.
Oh, so contact is more the emotion.
No, that's not either. No, it's mental formation. That is the one that is going to have emotions, is usually how it's translated. There are other translations for that also.
Yeah, and the translations thing is something that Dhammarato is very keen to speak on. There are many different translations, and we're dealing with the translation. It's a game of Chinese whispers, right? There's the Dhamma, then there's the writing it down, which is immediately something is lost. Then there's the reading of the translator. Then there's the writing of the translator. Then there's your reading. That's a big old game of Chinese whispers right there. So what tends to be the case is the investigation of something like Paticca is valuable in itself. Just doing this kind of reading like you're doing, Alex.
I think what happened is it honestly, it might have gotten me more in my head, and it might have caused more of a hindrance for me, because what I saw on there is that the Buddha saw that once he saw dependent arising, he was able to basically free himself of all suffering, because contained independent arising is the source and the beginning of and the end of all suffering. And I feel like I was starting to really see this as I was reading it, and then I was like, I don't know, man. I just got overwhelmed. It's like I got overwhelmed, and I enjoyed it at the same time. Like, I enjoyed reading about this because it was like, oh wow, that's interesting, but it also was overwhelming.
I just want to correct you because it's important that the end of suffering is not in dependent origination. It's just the awareness of suffering. The end of suffering comes like much later. Like, dependent origination ends in dukkha in the list, and then from there, there's another whole list. Dukkha leads to faith, leads to all these other things that eventually leads to letting go. And that letting go is the end of suffering, the dukkha nirodha. But dependent origination itself just says how do we get to dukkha? That's how it always ends.
Well, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I think to your point though, because I have the map here in front of me, and it goes like, you know, from each layer to the next. It starts with ignorance, and they say that once there is no more ignorance, once you're prior to ignorance, there's no more dukkha, because with ignorance comes volition, with volition comes consciousness. I mean with ignorance comes formation, and then consciousness and name and form and all this stuff. It all comes from ignorance. So if there's no ignorance, then there's no dukkha, which is interesting, because what that means is if there's nothing that you don't know, that's what ignorance means. Something that you don't know, or that which you haven't seen.
Yeah, careful of conflating that with knowledge.
Yeah,
Like
I think that
things.
The opposite of ignorance would be awareness. Wouldn't it? Like ignorance, let's say it's a black room, no light, and awareness would be a room with light. So
it's ignorance of the Four Noble Truths. That's what it is, right?
Ah, there you go. Yeah.
And something very important.
Wait, I didn't hear that. What was that, Mohammed?
It's the clinging, then comes the it's the craving, then comes the clinging. The clinging comes after the craving. It's not reverse.
Yeah.
The craving creates the clinging, and the clinging itself is the suffering. The suffering is the clinging. It's tension. You're attached to something. That's the clinging. That's actually the suffering. And the cause of the clinging is the craving. And that's the second noble truth. The origination of suffering is the craving. That's the second noble truth.
What did you say about ignorance, Mohammed?
Ignorance is a misunderstanding. It's not understanding the Four Noble Truths. And that's it.
Yeah, so what I was thinking as we were discussing all of that is there is quite often a specific definition that needs to be investigated in these kinds of teachings. Teacher Samapada is a deep teaching, and writings about it often go into great detail. And words, right? It's worth doing the investigation to see what does this word mean in context. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's great that you're there doing that reading. It's great to go and read that stuff. And great that you saw that you may have created some dukkha as you were going through it, because indeed, I mean, reading about something like the Teacher Samapada, the trap of mentalizing is great. Because when we look at it written down, it looks like a mental thing. I mean, words are a mental thing. But of course, what's being written about is something that's true in direct experience. And it sounds like you were playing with that balance as you went along. So keep playing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think speaking of play, I had something I think that might be useful too, just to bring up. But like sort of the idea, or perhaps the reframing too, when it comes to practice, right? Like it can be enjoyable in its own right, like just to practice, again, just to do these investigations, like talking about Paticca Samuppada, like dependent origination, just going in there. It can be so fun to just enthusiastically investigate these things and just like in their own, you know what I mean? Like that can just be a joy in of itself, right? Or again, coming back to, I think, what is also important too is bringing up the Four Noble Truths there, right? And coming back to that dukkha dukkha nirodha too, when you're talking about these investigations, because it is very easy, I think, to get like caught, you know, up perhaps in them and trying to get like super, you know, deep or whatever. But really, like it is partial, well, it is to enrich that Four Noble Truths and the understanding, right, of the dukkha dukkha nirodha, right? Of like kind of getting to that. And I think part of that is like just seeing the practice. Hey, this isn't like a grim practice that we must undertake. I need to undertake this. No, it's just like, hey, this is enjoyable sort of to do in its own right. Like, not like, oh, I have to do this in order so I get enlightened someday, but just like, hey, this is a good time just watching the in and out breath and coming back to the relaxation, or just investigating, like, what is this? It's just a lot of fun, you know? So, you know, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I appreciate that, DJ. Sometimes it's a lot of fun.
That's true, when you remember. Yeah.
Yeah, and there is a sense of momentum sometimes, right? So we practice ourselves into enjoyment, and then we kind of keep that plate spinning, right? And pretty much every practitioner I've ever spoken to has reported varying degrees of success and failure with this. And so what do? Never mind, start again. Okay, I can get that plate spinning once more. And you've done
All right, guys.
done that. You can do it again.
Yeah. I got to get back to work, guys. It's good to see all you.
Likewise, brother.
I'll talk to you guys
Hey,
later.
Alex, before
All
you go,
yeah.
I think what you started to like tap into before, when you got like loads of momentum in your practice and you started feeling like you could find like a satisfaction that was independent of the actual sensations themselves. I think that's like really, really, really key for when you feel like negativity. Because like if you're feeling like really like unhappy and stuff, but since you've already tapped into that, you know you can do it, right? So now it's not faith anymore, like Keyshawn said, it's wisdom, and you can bring that up. And just try and tap into that. And your good enough thing that you actually gave me, that's like been one of the most like powerful like mantras that I've used. That's like really like skyrocketed my progress over the last week that I was talking about before. So just say good enough, and just keep looking for like that essence of satisfaction. Or another way you can do it is look for the essence of desire. And if you see the essence of desire and the essence of satisfaction, you can find that even independent of the sensations. So I think that could be like really helpful. That was for me. Like,
Thanks, Robert. I mean, you're right, man. Like that was something that was helping me out a lot. Whenever I noticed I wasn't getting anywhere, or I wasn't finding the relief I wanted, or the like enjoyment I wanted, I would just say, oh, well, this must be good enough. That's okay. I'm throwing my hands up in the air. This is good enough. And then when I did that, I would notice like, wow, okay, it really is. There is some sense of this that is good enough. But now today when I do that, yesterday when I do that, nothing is good enough. It's not working. So either what will probably happen, like what is usual, is I'll continue to suffer, and I'll suffer to the point where I don't want to suffer anymore, and then I'll get back on the horse, and then we'll be back here next week, and I'll be telling you guys about how upset I am again. So have a great day.
I love how you're like so happy yesterday, and then you're like upset part always sing with the calls.
Yeah,
it's like a little cycle.
It's just like I don't know, man. I feel like a mad scientist right now.
I'm telling you,
the
equanimity
crazy.
thing is key, though. The equanimity thing, like the equanimity independent of conditions, that's so key. In my experience, like I think that's so important. You've already tasted it, dude. You've already tasted it, so you already have the insight. You've already like entered the stream, dude.
I know.
And Alex, see there, you had a little bit of relief right there when you were able to just laugh about the absurdity of the whole thing, man.
Yeah, like ask yourself, how would I feel right now if I was like a stream mentor? Like ask yourself, how would it feel if I was a Sotapanna right now, and like you were done and you finally reached that first permanent level where like you hit the horizon, the momentum goes by itself, no effort, effortless permanent enlightenment. Ask yourself, how would I feel if I had that right now? And just imagine how it would feel, and just keep pretending to be that person and pretending to imagine how that would feel. And then just like eventually like notice like that you can like feel it without like pretending.
Yeah, Robert.
Just a quick tips on this.
That's a good point. Like, I hate doing that. I hate doing that.
Oh,
I hate imagining how I would feel if I do. I don't like going anywhere near that because.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I appreciate your advice. It just doesn't work.
There's no need to imagine because
cool.
it's all great right now. There's no need to imagine.
Like I once read this monk saying that, well, we're all playing Buddhas, like little childs play to be doctors or play to be lawyers or play to be something they are not that right now. Well, why don't you just play like to be a Buddha right now and be
Yeah,
enlightened,
that's what I mean.
like a
Just play
playing,
pretend.
like I'll just pretend. It's perfectly okay. Like you're enlightened enough to know that you are pretending. You don't need you know you're pretending, and eventually
Yeah, like you're not stupid. You're not gonna fool
you'll learn
yourself and
to
like think you're enlightened. And
like
then like be like,
you'll
oh no, I'm
eventually
not. And, like,
go.
go through that whole up and down like BS. Like you're not
Yeah,
stupid.
like it's
Like
cool.
pretending
Like
you're Spider-Man on the playground.
yeah. And there's nothing that can stop you doing that. Like literally nothing can stop you from pretending to be that.
Yeah.
And the joy you can get from that, it's amazing.
Yeah,
It's
and that's
really
like the same
amazing.
thing Keyshawn was saying with like the pebble. It's like when you're playing pretend, you're just imagining. But like in order to imagine it, you have to recall how it felt, which means you know how it felt, which means like you can technically still do it. Like because you technically still know how it feels. So if you're pretending, if you can imagine it, then you can realize it. Don't let your dreams be dreams. Don't let your imagination be imagination. You got this, brother. Rock on.
Yes.
May the force be with you. May the Dhamma be with you. You're my Dhamma brother. We're all Dhamma brothers together now.
All right, love you guys. Gotta go.
Brother.
Bye.
Love you, like
Bye. Hey Jeff, good to see you.
Hi, Dan. How are you?
Really well, brother. How are you?
All right. The hindrances got me hard today.
Oh, but you're here. But you made it.
I'm trying to skate around them like a good Canadian.
Well, meet DJ, who tells me he's in Canada as well.
Ah. Oh, hello.
Hey.
Maybe you guys
Hey,
are
Cliff, yeah.
neighbors.
Oh, sorry. Were you asking whereabouts?
I said maybe you guys are neighbors. Hey, Keyshawn.
Hello, hello.
Hey.
Hey, brother. How you doing?
Hey.
Dan, pleasure to make your acquaintance, man.
Likewise, brother. I don't think we've actually ever been on a call.
I don't think so either. I've seen some of your stuff though.
Same. Seen you with Dhammarato. Seen you with the yes, thank you, baby. Seen you with the big group of friends.
It's an honor to finally be on this call. I'm never able to make this call, but today I can. Because I kind of got the day semi off. I had this like real estate exam.
Okay.
And I just finessed it with the absolute least effort possible. So I'm pretty excited about that.
And now you're going to bring all your energy to the Dharma call this evening.
Absolutely.
It's an honor to have you, brother. So you're going to do real estate, huh?
Yeah. I just took this exam. It's like this real estate to get your license.
Mm-hmm.
It's like all commercial real estate, residential real estate. So it's like if you're trying to learn how to flip houses, and I'm just not doing that. I'm in commercial real estate, so I'm like working with like industrial property. So it's just bureaucracy, and so it's just like how could I put in the least amount of effort to get through this?
Yeah,
and I've done that.
So career, right? Once you've got the license, as I understand it.
What was that?
A solid career once you've got the license, right? As I understand it.
I've already been in my career for like 2 years. It's just like,
oh, okay.
When you're an analyst, you don't need a license. They'll kind of tell you should get it, but like you don't really need it because you're not running the deals. But I changed jobs and now I'm gonna be running some deals, so it's like I have to get it now. So I was like, okay.
So it really is bureaucracy then.
Yeah.
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 Okay. Did you find out if you passed today?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, great.
I did. Yeah.
Minimum effort.
I failed the first time. I really didn't study at all. It was just like I failed happily the first time though. It was okay.
Failing happily.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the sauce.
Yeah, it was a joyful moment. And I was like, okay, well, I know what to focus on, and just like only did that,
Great.
And here we are.
Great. So will much actually change about your job?
What's changed?
Yeah, will anything change day to day?
Oh, like now? I mean, basically, like prior, I was just an analyst, kind of like assisting on deals that came in, from the producers who basically they go out, they make friends with people, talk to people, get the business, and then kind of kick all the work down to the analysts who just kind of scrap together all the, the books and do all the valuation and underwriting stuff. And so that's what I was doing. But then I was like, screw this. I want to be the one making friends with people, very Dhamma dude job.
Yeah.
So it's like, let me go and be the one who's getting the business and, actually kind of be a partner on the whole system. So now I'm like going to be, making calls, reaching out to people, networking, that kind of thing.
Right.
So, yeah.
Here's your second exam.
And we moneyed it. It's great.
Yeah.
Super excited.
Good stuff. So what time is it for you over there?
It's like 2:30.
Okay.
2:30 or so.
So would you normally be at work? Is that why you've been unable to join us?
Yeah, I mean, if you guys could push this call back like another 3 hours, maybe I could join more often. But I'm guessing it's pretty late over there, right?
Yeah, it's 20 to 9 in the UK.
I don't think there's ever really a good, like if this call was on a weekend, then it would make sense.
Yeah, and it kind of sucks for me because weekend is my big work days. So I teach drums. So I'm doing the unsociable hours, basically. The Saturday and Sunday is amazing. All the students come in. Hence, we're here in the evening, and I don't get to join the US calls. Oh,
yeah,
well.
We'd love to have you over there, man. But I hear you're a big drummer guy. You're still doing that, teaching people how to play drums?
Yeah.
That's also a very Dhamma dude job, I would say.
It is very Dhamma dude job.
The music going.
Lots of smiles. Yeah. And I mean, it's therapeutic right out the box. Right? People come in, I sit them down on the kit, and it's so immediate. I have quite a few folks come in who have tried other instruments before, and they come and they try drums, and they just love how quickly they can get a beat going. Where, you sit down at a piano and there's all this thinking to do first.
Yeah.
Drums, you can just feel it right away. And
the thing about that is like you got that repetition just on lock, it's just pure repetition over and over again.
Yeah, although some of them still struggle with that. I'm still working on, new strategies all the time to convince people to do that repetition. Namely, mostly I'll sit there smiling, doing the repetition.
Yeah, people have trouble with repetition in music and the Dhamma.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's common.
Yeah.
Common
Do you play
issue.
drums, Kishore? Do you play drums?
I don't play anything other than the mind.
I love that.
DJ, I saw a hand.
Oh, yeah, we're talking about music here and brought up the piano. I actually enjoy playing the piano, but like recently I've been like just playing like some basic, chords and all that, and then sort of like improvising songs almost in like a wholesome thought kind of way, like playing with the wholesome thoughts, and like coming up with like little like almost Dhamma jams, it's just like very inspiring, right? I think too, like, just being satisfied with like, hey, I don't have to be like the #1 pianist. I don't have to like, it's just, hey, I'm just enjoying these chords. I'm just, and singing along. It's not like, oh, I have to be the most wonderful singer. Like, this is good enough right now. This is enjoyable. But then like bringing that kind of practice in with it, it's like, well, this is a lot of fun, right? So, yeah.
Dhamma jams.
Yeah.
DJ, I was just talking to Alex about that last night. I feel like there's a clear distinction or difference between kind of having even if the wholesome thoughts are kind of disjointed versus if you kind of bring them into like a rhythmic, repetitive pattteron, it kind of changes the flavor of things quite a bit. And I think it's, that's how humans are wired, basically. There's a reason we like music.
Yeah,
I like that.
That's so cool.
Yes, repetition. Very important. Very important. Certainly a huge part of my job.
Yeah, I'll hear a new song that I like, just like the beat of, and just kind of start talking to myself wholesomely off that beat. It's like kind of what I've been doing lately.
Yeah, but Dhamma jams. DJ's on the piano, Keyshawn's on the mic. On the kit.
I could contribute some guitar and bass and also some singing.
Great.
Nice.
I'll be the cheerleader.
Amazing.
I used to play the piano, so it's enjoyable.
Joe Riley was that Joe that you posted there?
Yeah, he's someone I met at a retreat, and he's a really cool guy. He just makes Dhamma songs that are kind of catchy, and yeah, he's not the best musician in the world, but he just enjoys making music, you know, and they're all Dhamma songs. So
people
very wholesome.
People want to see and hear musicians who are enjoying themselves above all else. People will be so forgiving on the technical aspects if whoever's performing really is enjoying themselves. It seems so important. I say that as a musician of 25 years. I'd far rather see a bunch of amateurs having a great time than the most technically skilled and precise performance, but a big old grumpy face. No question. No question which performance I'm going to enjoy more.
One piece that or thing that kind of got started from Dhammarato when he recommended that I listen to Beethoven's Ninth Symphony in D minor. I think it's like the last movement, the fourth movement, I think. And I actually don't like he sent me like the lyrics. I don't know the lyrics really at all, but like I kind of almost like it that way because it's like the medium is the message, as he talks about a lot of the time, and basically you can kind of just go off of that, and you could just tell it's such a lion's roar. That song, that entire piece is just so incredible, and when you start like kind of going from there with your wholesome thoughts too, that's another good pairing, I would say.
Is that the Ode to Joy?
No, I think that's different.
Okay.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong though. I'm not sure. I think that's different. The Ninth Symphony. I don't know what like the name of it is. If there's a different name.
Well, I'm sure it was a good recommendation.
Ode to Joy is good too, though.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you know, when you start hacking the process with, hey, I'm going to combine my Beethoven with wholesome thoughts. I mean, it's a winning formula.
It's like surprisingly, almost aggressively, like lion-like that his pieces, you know, especially that Ninth Symphony. It's just like a real, this incredible, victorious championship kind of, you know, kind of puts me on top of the world. I think that's one way to get into Jhana, I feel like. Just listen to that.
Maybe Beethoven was a Dhamma dude.
I think so.
Yeah.
There's a good saying that Beethoven said. I know it in French. Are there some people of you who speak French?
I speak a little French.
Yeah. La marque de supériorité, c'est la bonté. Je ne vois aucune autre qualité de supériorité que la bonté. In English, it's the only mark of superiority that I see is only goodness. So kind of goes like that, right?
The only mark of superiority I see is goodness.
Yeah, like that. Beethoven.
Sounds very super mundane.
Was there any context to that, Mohammed?
Well, I only know that Beethoven said it, and that's it.
Oh, Beethoven said it. Okay.
Yeah, Beethoven said it, yeah.
Interesting. Maybe he was a Dhamma dude.
Yeah.
Mysterious. Mysterious. Beethoven grew up where?
In Germany, I think. Right?
Yeah, Germany. In which century?
Or Austria, maybe. Austria, I don't know, somewhere like there.
Anyone know which century? Do you reckon they had the Pali canon in the library?
No.
17.
Long time ago.
Yeah.
Couple lifetimes ago, I think.
That'd be kind of interesting, right? To find out how widely circulated was the Pali canon pre-20th century. Did it make it outside of Asia? Could there have been secret Dhammadus? I mean, obviously, it's a lot of writing, isn't it?
Yeah. Hegel, the philosopher Hegel, he was a Dhamma.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd not heard the name before.
Yeah, Hegel. A lot of his writings are like very like non-duality, like all about like being in the moment and stuff.
Interesting.
I think there was
He's
a lot of
doing a
crossover in like the time of Rome, I've heard.
Oh yeah.
Even then. So I would imagine it's been circulated somewhat for a while.
Yeah,
even I hear like sometimes like Dhammarato say like, yeah, where do you think Socrates got his stuff from sometimes, you know, like that kind of thing. You know?
Yeah. And I guess, you know, it wouldn't have had to be the whole canon that they got their hands on, right?
Yeah.
Like found the Buddha's greatest hits, now in Greek.
Well, the thing is, it was an oral tradition. You have to remember too, and like in orally, things can travel a lot easier than you would think, because you know, like walking from one village to another, it doesn't take that long to travel quite a long distance.
Well, yeah, and of course you can speak to more than one person at a time, right? So, like a virus, it spreads.
In a way, I guess you could say the Dhamma predates the Pali canon itself, that the Buddha said that the teaching of the Buddha is an old teaching.
Right. Right. How far back do we want to go?
Yeah.
Yes, anyone who wanted to get quiet and look at what was going on, there it is.
Exactly. Some people just, you know, they know how to be happy, or they were taught how to be happy, perhaps, you know, and that kind of thing. So when they're young.
Right. Yeah. There could have been those pockets of happy people, and of course everyone had very little at one point, so they had the renunciation part taken care of. That was all good. So would they need those writings? I guess not. But I kind of like the idea of Socrates kind of sat in some dark corner in the library, reading the Pali canon, and then coming and proclaiming to the Greek public this new philosophy that he'd come up with.
Yeah.
My wisdom.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't, one of the things that Dhammarato likes to talk about his story, I guess, is like when he was dying, when he was being put to death, you know, taking the hemlock, and he's in the cell, and he's got his students there, and one of the students starts, you know, getting all emotional. He kicks him out. He's like, "This is a party. We're gonna investigate what's going on here. We're gonna have fun."
Yeah.
You know. And I think he documented the process of his death, which is
much more Dhamma than that.
Doesn't get much more Dhamma than that. Yeah.
I can't remember who it was. I was telling someone about Bhikkhu Buddhadasa's death the other day. I can't remember who it was, but I love that whole story.
I haven't heard that one.
Okay, so the king of Thailand offered to send a helicopter when Bhikkhu Buddhadasa was dying to bring him to, you know, one of the big hospitals and take care of him, and maybe he would have survived. Who knows? But Bhikkhu Buddhadasa was like, "No, I'm cool here in the forest. I lived in the forest. I'll die in the forest."
Yeah. All those lion stories from the monks.
All the what? Sorry.
The lion stories from the monks. You know.
The lion stories.
Yeah, just like being you know, fearless in that way. Like Ajahn Po, I think, you know, had like so many cataracts in his eyes, they had to trick him into going to the doctor. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah. All the stories of them having teeth pulled with no drugs.
Yeah. One of my Dhamma teachers actually died recently, like 2 days ago.
Okay.
So it's Natthiko. He's a Swedish monk. Well, he was a former monk. He was a Thai forest monk under Ajahn Chah for like 17 years or something. But really, really awesome guy. So that was a bit sad. But he had Parkinson's, and it got to the point where it was so bad that his body was basically paralyzed, and he like couldn't talk and stuff. So yeah, it was for the best, really, but it's still a bit sad.
Yeah, sure.
You know, but yeah.
Is there are they going to do like an open funeral? Are they anywhere nearby?
I don't really know what they're going to do. He made like a Facebook post like posthumously. He just asked of everybody, if you want to remember me, just make a bench and put it in a spot, a nice spot. He has this teaching that he has where he calls it like guerrilla bench making. Basically, it translates to in English. And he wants everybody to make benches and then just put them into public places.
Okay,
for people to sit down on. You know, and
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's his thing.
You got a spot figured out?
I already did it. Yeah, I made one yesterday and took it to this nice spot that I like. So
right.
Yeah, I need to go back. I want to carve like a little Dhamma message in there though. Like yeah.
Right.
So I'll have to go back and do that sometime.
Yeah. Maybe one of his teachings or something.
Yeah.
Beautiful. That's a
he's awesome guy. He was a monk, and then I guess kind of like Dhammarato, he quit being a monk. He was like, well, I just don't have to do this anymore. Basically, you know, he said that he was sitting there one day and was just like, well, I just don't have to do this. I'm just fine, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, that guy he was awesome. Yeah.
That sounds like a great.
And his whole disease, he just like just didn't care the whole time and was like still going around doing speeches. And in Sweden, he's the most popular Buddhist teacher by far, and was still going and doing speeches and stuff for quite a long time into his illness.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
Strong examples, right? Because Buddhas is setting that example with his death. Fellow coming in, giving talks with Parkinson's going on. It's very inspiring.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly, but I think Dhammarato's last will and testament was for some of his students to come and do some corpse meditation on his body after he's gone. So
yeah. How about we dance around it?
Just have a big party around Dhammarato's corpse.
Yeah.
There's a song. Now that you bring in this corpse dancing around, about a songmaker, a singer. I really don't know, but he was Hawaiian.
Yeah.
And in this video, his funeral pops up nearly at the end, and there's no one crying. Like, there's literally no one crying. It's a huge celebration of a fantastic life. This is the song that most hit everywhere, and it's a great song. I think it comes in the first version of The Wizard of Oz, Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
Oh, yeah.
And it's an amazing song, and he quite put the feeling on it. And the story about him singing this song, it's 3 a.m. He calls to study, and he goes like, man, I need urgently to sing a song. Like, I need to record this song. Like, it's urgent. He goes, he only took one take.
Mm-hmm.
He leaves, and boom, like, he's everywhere in the world.
Okay. Very.
I think I know this one. Is that the big guy who sings that?
Yeah,
song?
he's really big.
Really
big guy.
With the ukulele.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that guy. Yeah.
I love this song.
It's beautiful, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be right back, sir.
Sure. Yeah, some kind of celebration, some kind of corpse meditation celebration. Something sounds very appropriate. Very appropriate.
I think there's even I think it's more like some Hindu traditions who are very big about this whole death thing, and where like they even have this kind of corpse meditation as a pretty in extreme practice, and where there's like special rules where you how and what kind of corpse you should obtain, and how to meditate upon a corpse, like sitting on a corpse and shit.
Wow,
that's pretty morbid, but I kind of dig the image behind it.
Well, yeah, I mean, morbid until it's not, right? And that's the whole point is, you know, can you smile in the graveyard?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things that maybe, I don't know if I would actually do it, but, you know, instead of going to a horror movie one night, maybe go spend a night at the cemetery, you know?
Yeah.
Go camping.
Yeah. Why not? Yeah. Just to kind of dig around, see if there's any phenomena that can freak you, right? And then, ooh.
Dhammarato once recommended to me that there's like these large, you know, kind of vacant buildings where they'll you know, it's kind of like a Buddhist thing where they'll put kind of memorials or, you know, candles or like, you know, old sentimental things in there for like a past monk or something like that.
Right.
And I think that there's beds in there, you know, and they're empty, and it's like, you know, a memorial to dead people. That'll also be a good place to go spend the night.
Yeah.
You know, and see how you react when a broom falls in the corner and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I had a good taste of it when I went to visit Dhammarato, and I was sleeping on the little cot he's got there out on the porch. And I don't know if anyone else has visited, but his place is basically surrounded by jungle. Well, there's a courtyard and a few houses and jungle on all sides, and then the road on the one side. And I'm hearing noises, right? And then the two dogs. And I'm thinking, yeah, dogs are territorial, aren't they? You know, they'll be protecting us, right? Right? The dogs have got this, right? All kinds of noises. All kinds of noises. I'm thinking, jungle cats? I don't know. What's out there? I got to sleep eventually.
Wow. Yeah, that reminds me of my first night in the woods. First few nights in the woods.
You like
similar experience. I mean, looking up at the absolute black.
Yeah.
And maybe, you know, maybe a shadow of a tree here or there. The trees just become like these large black figures at night. It's like I had never experienced that before. It's like, and there's all types of noises, you know. The forest is quite noisy at night.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch of animals that specifically come awake at night, right? So they're living the dream. Meanwhile, we're trying to get some sleep.
It's a good place to learn to listen instead of being afraid.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I think the most important thing about it is reflecting on death, and that someday everyone's gonna die. That's it. Yeah. Everyone's gonna die, and we can do it without like going to the jungle or anything. Just we can reflect on it.
Sure.
And like ask ourselves, if I were to die tonight, what would I be missing? Would I be missing like something, regrets, some attachment? And it's a great method to find out that the attachments that you have when you reflect on death, that you're going to die, suddenly the attachments they're going to rise because you think you're going to die. And it helps really the practice a lot because it's kind of fast, you know, the attachments like they explode when you think you're going to die. Like, oh, they rush in.
You certainly won't be the one missing anything, right? It'll be other people.
Missing you, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Or they'll be celebrating. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. And yeah, you know, the death of another is a great opportunity, right? Because we know that if we can't be okay with that, we're going to be in trouble when it's our turn.
How long? By the way, I'm curious. How long did you like hang out on Dhammarato's porch when you did?
Just a few nights.
Nice.
Then I went off to Wat Suan Mokkh to do the retreat there and had a very mixed bag experience. And then I hung out with some friends in Chiang Mai. But it's
did you already have friends out there? Or?
Yeah, so my best bud from childhood met a girl from Thailand at university. She was here in the UK, and then he married her and moved out there. So I've been to Thailand at least twice.
What happened at your retreat?
All kinds of stuff. I had a very long journey to Dhammarato's place. Was very tired when I arrived. Didn't get the best sleep in the old cot there, listening to all those sounds.
Mm-hmm.
So I was quite tired. Got on the boat from Koh Phangan to Surat Thani. Made it to Chaya, where Wat Suan Mokkh is, and they give a free night's sleep at the monastery for anyone who's attending the retreat the night before. So the night before the retreat begins at the retreat center, anyone can get a free night's sleep at the monastery. So I'm there on the wooden bed, and I'm struggling with that. And then I start getting real itchy, like around the ribs. I'm like, what the hell is that? Okay, just ignore it, go back to sleep, whatever. Keeps coming back, keeps coming back. What is that? Now it's like painful. So I'm like, okay, what is this? Sat up, put my little light on, probably woke everyone else up. I'm covered in ants.
Wow.
So I like leap up, brush all these ants off. I'm like grabbing my bedding and trying to get all these ants off the bedding. The other side of the room, there's the same kind of row of wooden, it's like a platform where everyone sleeps. So I just went to the other side, settled down there. I'm in this kind of like half conscious state. Who knows how much later, same sensation again. I get up, I'm covered in ants. I'm dusting myself up, I'm shaking everything off. So I figured, well, I ain't sleeping. So I just meditated until something like 4 o'clock in the morning. The monks start ringing the bell, and then we're up and we're off to the retreat center. And
of course, it was just you and your juicy UK Farang blood that those ants preferred, right? Or was it everyone else there?
They smelled a Farang, yeah. We were all foreigners, actually. So the way that Wat Suan Mokkh do the retreats is they run a Thai retreat and then they run a Farang retreat. So we were obviously on the Farang retreat. So I don't know why the ants preferred me. I was at the edge of the building, right? I was in one of the corners, so I don't know. Maybe there was just an infestation at that particular end of the building. So I was very, very tired going in anyway. They do like an interview when they bring the students in to kind of assess whether you're okay to go ahead and do your 10 days silence thing. And I said to the guy who did the interview, I'm really, really tired. I'm feeling a bit anxious, etc. And he said, come speak to me if you don't get any sleep tonight. So I said, okay. Didn't sleep. Went and spoke to him. He said, meet me around the back of the dorms after lunch. So I went and met him, and he had these fruit that he said grew on one of the trees there that was supposed to help with sleep. So I'm stood there just scoffing these fruit out this guy's hand. He found me the next day and said, did you sleep? I said it was a little better. He said, meet me again, same time. So I went and met him again, more of these fruit. And eventually I kind of leveled out. But I was very disappointed with the teaching on the retreat, actually. So I had some expectation, having had so much time with Dhammarato, and we all know how great that is. I thought it was going to be jokes, stories, all the good fun times. Well, the two teachers who were there were Thai. so there was a language barrier, and they were actually doing great, but it wasn't like chatting to old Dhammarato. And the other teachings that were there were some talks that some of you might have heard, which are some talks of, oh, what's the fella's name? Santikaro, the guy who would translate Bhikkhu Buddhadasa on the fly. So while Bhikkhu Buddhadasa was giving a talk, he would then pause. And I think it was
familiar.
Who knew Thai very well and would, I think he ordained around the same time as Dhammarato, and he would translate the talks. But of course, translating from Thai to English on the fly, I don't think is very easy. They're not very similar languages, right? And so this poor guy kind of sounded like he was reading at someone's funeral. I mean, he was at the time.
Dan, I kind of like, there was a period of time where I listened to like a lot of those Santikaro talks.
Yeah.
And when I hear them now, I just get like this overwhelming, like nostalgic feeling of like, it's like, I know it's so dry, but it's also comforting in a way. Like, right. Sometimes the tape, it's so old that it'll like slow it down so it goes even slower.
Right.
Yeah, so, it's got like, oh, sorry.
So I discovered afterward, speaking with Dhammarato, that actually Bhikkhu Buddhadasa was on those talks originally. And he was laughing and joking with those in attendance. But they'd cut all of that out.
Mm.
So there's poor Danny feeling all tired and sorry for himself, desperate for a joke or a story or something, and just couldn't get it. Well, of course, the whole setup is that you got to figure it out for yourself, right? So varying degrees of success and failure ensued, and that was the retreat. That was the whole thing. I actually left a day early.
This sounds like a perfect opportunity for a Natthiko, this monk that died. He had one of his sayings that he had. Somebody'd sit there and tell him a story like this, and he said, "Sounds bad, maybe good."
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was pretty much the story of the whole thing. I was sat on the final day, or maybe it was the penultimate day, thinking to myself, I'll do better practice in a hotel room than I'm doing here. so I marched up to the office and said, "Give me my money back. Put me a taxi. I'm going." So off I went back into Surat Thani, and I called Dhammarato up. He said, "You're early." I said, "Yeah, I got out of there." He said, "Well, you did your 10 days because, you did that night in the monastery, first of all." I said, "Yeah, the ants ate me up." He said, "Oh." So that was quite an experience. Yeah.
One thing I feel like I hear in there is that like, and that I felt lucky to have you as a trial run student of Dhammarato going out into the woods or going into one of these kind of retreats where it's kind of a, it's not like a nice American retreat center, Dhamma, center, that kind of thing. And so in my talks with Dhammarato, he's giving me different kinds of advice on how to do your own retreat, like in an empty hut is one of the prescriptions of the Buddha. You could do that in your apartment. And then in terms of like the taking away things, you kind of do it gradually instead of kind of ripping it all away. But that's kind of a different topic. What I was going to get at was, it sounded like you could have used what I had when I was in the woods for like, I don't know, 2 weeks or so, which was a cell phone to call Dhammarato.
You recommended that I took a cell phone in there with me. Yeah. And I was saying, no, I'm going to do it properly. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I think he recommended taking a couple books. And they don't enforce the rules. There are rules, but they don't enforce them. I hear that on certain retreats, they'll come round knocking on the doors, Hey Ron, how you doing? Could you mute your mic,
Hello?
brother? Thanks. In certain retreats, I've heard they'll come around knocking on the doors. You know, if you're not in the meditation hall, they'll come round you up. It wasn't at all at Wat Suan Mokkh. So actually, in the beginning, when I was still struggling to catch up with sleep, I missed quite a few of the sessions. And I told Dhammarato afterwards, and I was kind of like, oh, I was a bad boy. You know, I didn't go to all the sessions. He said, well, that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do that at at Goenka retreats. They come in and get you and are like, hey, you gotta go sit.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, there was a Goenka retreat. I was actually volunteering at a Goenka retreat as a like cook, and I ended up leaving on like day 8 because it was just the environment was so bad
It
and
sounds so rigid. Yeah.
yeah. It was, but I mean, like being a practitioner is hard, but like I didn't really realize volunteering would be so difficult because there weren't enough staff, and we were in Morocco, and the water was like bad, and so I was stomach sick, and I was like, hey, I gotta go to like a doctor. Like,
Yeah.
I'm really not feeling good at all. I mean, because I was one of the few Westerners there. It was mostly Moroccans, so they were like fine with the water.
Right.
And I was just like puking my guts out, and I'm like, should I really be making people food when I'm like this? And oh my god, it was a nightmare. I know. I had to, and the only way I could leave too, I had to like beg for my passport back on day 8. I was like, you gotta give it back to me. I gotta just leave. And I ended up like hitchhiking out of there. Like, had no idea where I was going. I couldn't like talk to the guy. I was just like, just take me somewhere, like anywhere away from here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my god, it was an adventure.
I came away from that retreat with the impression that it was kind of extreme. And I think part of the conversation that I had with Dhammarato following was that it had changed a lot since he was there last. He said there had been English speaking teachers, and there'd been various things that were different about it. I think that what it was for me at that time was quite an extreme change compared to those nice conversations with Dhammarato and my own practice going really well at home. And so I like that idea that you mentioned, Keyshawn, of gradually removing things. I think, you know, it can work. There was benefit in it for me, no doubt. You know, that cold turkey.
Yeah.
Nothing. You got nothing. You ain't talking to nobody. You ain't reading nothing. But I think that it's an extreme change from the diet of stimuli that we're all on as youngsters, going into an environment like that. And here's, you know, this was me after speaking with Dhammarato for at least a year, quite intensively. I'd spent a long time speaking with Dhammarato, and my practice was going really well. And still, when I hit that retreat center, it was pretty extreme. There was some dukkha around, so I got a good chance to look at it. Sounds bad, maybe good.
I feel like going into that kind of thing, like now, it's like, you know, going with the attitude, those rules are all, you know, meant to be bent. That's what they're there for. They're for bending. You know how to practice correctly anyway, so, you know, go ahead and do your thing.
Right.
Going like that. And another thing, like to point to the efficacy of bringing the cell phone, just the one experience that I had, I didn't know how afraid of the dark I was, but when I was in the woods, but being like in the woods when it was super dark, I think you couldn't really see any stars because maybe probably pretty cloudy. And I was kind of like at the parking lot. Eric and I were at the parking lot, like a 20-minute walk from our campsite. And I was like, I get outside, I'm like, I can hardly even balance myself. I'm like, I can't see anything. It's just like literally black.
Yeah. Yeah, we get to experience that, right? There's always some kind of light around, you know, in any kind of built up area. There's light pollution, right? So even when you think it's really dark, it's not really dark. Not like out there. So yeah, you've got the light on your cell phone, right? That's another handy little thing to have.
We had a headlamp, and something about it it just wasn't very bright. Like we realized what was going on like the next day, but something about it just wasn't very bright at all. I think the batteries might have just been dying.
Yeah.
So it's pretty low light. It was almost like if you ever played like Slender Man, the game. Like that's the type of environment you're walking around in effectively. And but what kind of saved me from that was like I was like, dude, I can't do this. Like I literally cannot do this. But I like gave Dhammarato a call and like, you know, we talked about it. Like, look, if you feel lost, just stop and just, you know, listen and just wait. You're not lost if you're not moving. And, you know, just, you know, go with the senses instead of the fear. And that was kind of, that was kind of my way out.
Right.
I made it back to the campsite. Had to do this log walk to get across this puddle at the end. Which is pretty great in the dark too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
We just don't have to deal with those kind of circumstances growing up in civilization, right?
Yeah, it's one of those things that Dhammarato also mentioned too, which was like, you know, when he said, like when the Buddha says go to the forest, and he's talking to his monks, it is kind of a different go to the forest, because for us going to the forest, it's like, you know, what we're describing right now, but for them, they're kind of already in that environment, right? You know, it's kind of probably pretty used to doing that in general. So for them, it's probably like literally just another form of seclusion, probably synonymous with going to an empty hut, I would imagine. You know, aside from like
come to my farm. There's no lights or anything here. So I'm dealing with that all the time.
Okay. Yeah, there you go.
But I've been in the headlamp situation. Sometimes it's almost better to let your eyes try to adjust to it rather than going with the shitty headlamp that's almost out of battery.
Right.
But I've been in some stupid situations at like 10 o'clock at night in the like kind of the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
After that experience, Eric and I would go out and just be like, all right, let's see how can we walk around in the dark without seeing anything, like just kind of start playing with it.
Great.
Yeah, let the eyes adjust, get your night vision going.
Yeah. I remember one of the things that really bothered me at the retreat center was the guy who was showing us around, who's a friend actually. I think he might even be on the list for these calls. His name's Toon. I know he's stayed with Dhammarato a couple of times. So he was doing the induction, and he mentioned scorpions and snakes and all sorts. He's, you know, you might see a scorpion, you might see a snake. I'm thinking, well, we might see him. Depends what the sun's doing. We might see them first. Then what? So very different environment, right? And it brings the fear out. It's the same thing as going to the cemetery or meditating on the corpse. If you've got certain attachments, if there's certain phenomena that will bring those fear responses out in you, well, great, here it is. Yes, Doug?
Yeah, not to break the whole cycle completely, but I actually had something to share still. That is, it's a bit more of a personal thing. Not so much of an anecdote, but yeah, I've talked to this already with Joe and Robert on the weekend on the Sangha call on Sunday a bit, and yeah, I've been dealing with a lot of difficult stuff lately. Some days I was because everything is changing so rapidly for me. Some days I was terrified to even leave the house. Like there's experience like, oh, holy shit, everything is happening within awareness or consciousness all the time. Even this huge, but what is not that important. But I actually got around to getting some success in just facing these basic everyday things that used to be pretty much nothing, that you could just do and everything was fine, and suddenly they became like a bigger challenge. And I went into like avoidance a bit or a bit more for a while, but actually started to get into it again, and just taking a small walk or going to the store became a success. Something that I actually was pretty scared of, but could do anyway.
Yeah, and what a great demonstration of how it is all in the mind. Doesn't matter if it's a corpse or a scorpion or go into the shops.
Yes. And it's not, I still don't feel fully functional in a way. There would be some things right now that I feel that that would be too much at once, but at least these basic things I'm kind of relearning that they're doable, so to say.
Great. Great. And there's perhaps a subtle standard in there, right, as to what's normal. Now, we could probably all agree that going to the shops is a pretty normal thing to do, but we can change our standard however we like. If we take Jackie Chan as our standard, well, none of us are doing great.
Yeah, and it's just because there's so much new stuff. Like earlier today, I was picking up Nora from the train station, and suddenly there I was in the car driving around with barely any sense of self left, except like the bodily sensations that were still kind of localized. But except for that, well, hey, hang on, where the fuck did I go? And yeah, kind of. It was.
Who said that?
What?
Who said that?
No. Yeah. It was not total, but it kind of ebbed and flowed.
Yeah, but can you investigate that question? And of course, we're talking about the past here, so this might be of limited value. But where did I go? Who said that?
Yeah. Exactly. But it's been possible to relax into it a bit more, at least. It's not that it's not scary at all anymore, but it's possible to relax into it a bit more. These experiences where suddenly, shit, nothing's different, yet everything's totally different.
Yeah, and there is that hardwired, or at least, shall we say, conditioned resistance to change.
Yes.
Fear of change until there isn't. So I think you're handling all of this beautifully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some got some amidst the like the what's the word, the familiar pretty nasty stuff that comes around time and again. There's some successes being noticed and also celebrated.
Yeah, and what I love is the deliberate quality in your finding those successes.
Yeah, I mean, at some point I was like, man, I maybe for like a few days, but not permanently. I can become someone who can't leave the house anymore, so to say. So it was kind of a bit of, man, I'm forced to bite the bullet, at least to some degree, if I am to kind of at least get basic needs met.
Right. Right, and in there you've managed to create a learning experience.
Yes.
And do a ton of practice by the sounds of it.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah. It's still there's just a lot of very weird shit happening that I would struggle to even put into words.
Yeah. Yeah. I get it. It's a trip.
Yeah, really, man. All the time. Sun up, to sundown.
Yeah, and round we go on the big carousel.
Yeah.
That's fun.
I think you're doing great. I mean, you know, what can you do about those phenomena? It's not like you're waking up and saying, hey, I feel like being someone who can't leave the house today.
No.
Not you. Not you.
Yeah.
It's just old stuff.
And oh yeah, one of the greatest successes as of recent was that I'm more and more starting that I had put really a weight on certain phenomena over certain others, like
Yes.
a lot of like negative biases that would come in when like dealing with anything, and there would be, for example, some kind of resistance or even harsh aversion to it. And I started seeing, holy shit, there's been belief in that like harsh aversion. It's not that it doesn't come up anymore or doesn't have the power to suck me in anymore, but I've seen a few times this, basically the groundlessness of believing one of those things over one of the others.
Good.
That there's apparently no actual reason to believe
right
one of them over the others, to give one of them more meaning and more weight than the others.
Right.
And that was pretty, at times it was already pretty liberating to be like, okay, man, it still sucks, and it's not that it doesn't happen anymore, but there is an arising, like there was a glimpse of, oh shit, maybe it's actually possible to be free of it.
So once again, your excellent understanding is leading the way to insight. Good. I'm doing my Jack Nicholson. I love that gif.
Guys, I got to jump, but it was really great getting to meet you, Dan, for the first time. And also, I think, I don't remember your name with the curly hair, but I've seen a couple of your videos. And so nice to meet you too. And hopefully I could get back on one of these calls soon enough again. And I think Nick also, I don't think we've spoken before, but good to make you guys acquaintance.
Likewise, brother.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Great to have you along
again.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. And listen, guys, it's getting pretty late here for me, so I'm going to chip off at this point. As always, you're all welcome to continue.
Yeah.
Great seeing you all again from here.
All right, thank you very much, Dan.
Some wonderful jokes.
Yeah, thank you.
Friendship. DJ, great to meet you. Thanks for joining us for the first time.
Yeah, no, it's been amazing. And like, again, I do enjoy some of your videos too, right, on the Dhamma Dudes channel. I've checked those out. So it's great, like I said, like actually meeting you and stuff. Yeah, on Skype. So yeah.
Glad you're enjoying. Thanks for coming along, and we'll be back the same time next week.
Nice.
Bye, guys. Great to see you.
Bye.